the rules of man, not going to save you. The rules of this game, the rules of this illusion, they come and go. They wither on the vine. What's right today is wrong tomorrow. What's right again at another time. The standards, they waver. They're flexible. Much like the truth of this mirage and this hallucination. It distorts with time. Distorts with authority. Distorts with cultures. Distorts based on the will of man. The traditions of man are not going to save you, are not going to free you, are not going to bring you peace. The regulations that men construct on how to navigate this mirage we call reality. It's not going to bring you the satisfaction, the fulfillment, the gratification that you're seeking. What the rules, the regulations, and the traditions of man will foster are moments of happiness and pain and sorrow, underwritten by a everlasting emptiness. And so you get these acute moments, these intense moments of elation, and these intense moments of pain and suffering, mental anguish, frustration, anxiety. When you live your life by the constructs of man. The constructs, the framework, the blueprint, and the plans of men get ever more complicated, ever more intricate. The web that we weave ultimately becomes entangled such that we can no longer see the simple things that matter, the standards that matter, the truisms that are meaningful. We're caught up in the distractions and diversions of this world and the man-made rules, regulations, and traditions. Yet what is most simple in life goes unnoticed and unappreciated. In our endless chase for success, for glory, for esteem, for trophies, for titles, for championships, for money, for houses, for cars. All of these things are distractions. They divert you from what is righteous and true. And they cause you to flex your standards. They cause you to waver on your principles. That's if you've even defined your standards or your principles. Most people, if you ask them, what are your standards? What are your principles? What are your maxims? What are your axioms? They can't tell you. Ask the question. I ask you, what are your maxims? What are your axioms? What are your principles? What are your standards by which you live your life? Ruminate on it. Meditate on it. Contemplate it. Scrutinize it. Audit your life and start to understand your principles that should be guiding you. The endless search for a title, for a bauble, for bedazzlement, for distractions, for diversions, for cheap highs, cheap titillation, cheap thrills, for money, for success, for esteem, for the glory of man. The endless chase for that is going to put you in a position to do one of two things. You either have no principles or standards or morals or ethics, and you will chase those things down such that nothing will stand in your way. Nothing will hinder you. Nothing. No ethic. No truth. No values. It's not just that you'll, especially if you're driven, especially if you're far beyond driven, you get to a point, we all do. All of us who are type A personalities, who have an ambition, who have a dream, who have a goal, who have a target, and who've ever invested blood, sweat, tears, and put skin in the game, especially when we were young, we get to a mindset, and people live their whole lives this way. We get to a frame of mind such that there's nothing going to stop us. We'll work as hard as we have to work. We'll push as hard as we have to push. We'll study as much as we have to study. We'll read as much as we have to read. We'll craft as much as we have to craft. We'll climb any mountain. We'll cross any river. Nothing will stop it. Including we'll cross any boundary. Any ethical boundary, any moral boundary, any standard, any principle. All of it gets sacrificed at the behest of the ambition, of the target, of the goal. And you get to that top of that mountain, and you'll find you're just at the bottom of another, and you wonder, what did you do with your life? What did you compromise to get there? Only to find that it didn't fulfill you, didn't gratify you, didn't bring you what you thought it would bring you. Then there are those who wander aimlessly, also with no standards, no morals, no ethics, no principles, no maxims, no axioms, no values by which they live their life. Again, it becomes a hodgepodge of meaningless distractions. The bills, the job, the phone calls, the bars, the drinks, the going to bed, the waking up, the clocking in, the clocking out, the eating the three meals, the banality, the humdrum nature, the monotony of life, getting distracted by these things that, again, get you caught up in a survival trap, just trying to survive, such that you don't even focus on what values or standards or principles are. You're just trying to put food on the table. You're wandering aimlessly from job to job, from bill to bill, from debt to debt. Again, with no values, no principles, no axioms, no maxims to guide you, to fulfill you. Because it's not the humdrum nature of the chores you have to do day to day. It's not the grand ambitions and dreams that you have, that you either fantasize about or that you actually go after, that bring you any purpose, ultimately that bring you any gratification. It's living a life true to your values, to your principles, to your maxims, to your axioms, to your standards. But and then you start to know that no matter what happens, whether you're just going about the humdrum, monotonous toings and froings of the day-to-day, or whether you're on a journey filled with enthusiasm, excitement, climbing mountains, however any of it ends up, no matter what the day looks like, none of it holds a candle to the fact that your guiding principles are being held. That that your standards are being lived up to, that your values, you're living your values. And when you live a life filled with principle and values, then all the rest of it, it's just window dressing. You could feel righteous at heart. You could feel satisfied, grateful, thankful, and have meaning and purpose in your life, because whatever you're doing, you know that you're fulfilling your guiding light. You know that you're walking the straight and narrow that you have dedicated yourself. You know that you are truly embodying the values that make you special, that make you a child of Yahuwah, the Most High. Because that's where the real questions come into play. Because once you understand, it's not about any of the distractions, any of the window dressings, any of the bauble, the bedazzlement, any of the cheap thrills, cheap highs, cheap titillations. It's none of the monotonous day-to-day toing and froing of the hamster wheel that you find yourself on. And it's not all of the excitement or energy that you expend in search of your grand ambitions and dreams and the journey you're on. None of that. When you come to the realization it's about living a life of truth, of principle, of values, you're halfway there. The other half is figuring out what those values, principles, and truths must be for your life to have meaning and purpose. And I submit to you that it's not complicated, that it is simple. The simpler, the better. And the beauty is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Yahuwah, Yahusha, the Most High, the Creator of all things, He who breathes life into existence, has given us the way, the truth, and the life. He manifested in the flesh as Yahusha, the Most High, who saves, the Most High who delivers, the Most High who redeems you from the life you were leading, bereft of those values and principles, distracted and diverted, chasing cheap highs, cheap thrills, cheap titillation. In coming to Him, in recognizing Him, in seeing Him, in hearing Him, in knowing Him, in loving Him, you come to understand the values, the principles that matter most, not the rules, regulations, traditions of man that lead you astray, that lead you down a road of hopelessness, frustration, despair, that leave you petulant, entitled, ultimately wanting, longing, thirsting, never having enough, always wanting more, clawing, cannibalizing, scratching your way to every sparkly, every shiny new thing, every trend, every tune you dance to, a new tune. Always looking, always searching, always wondering, what's the answer? What's the meaning? What's the purpose? It's not complicated. It's not complex. The rules, blueprints, instructions, regulations, traditions of men would have you think that the keys to the universe are this so intricate, complicated thing that it will take you the rest of your life to learn. But if you're lucky, you learn it young. If you're not, you might never learn it. But if you had a life well lived, if you've been through hell and back, if you've faced tragedies, if you've faced struggles, if you faced challenges, if you faced fights, if you faced climbing, clawing, scratching, only to get to a place where you have been graced by the epiphany that you've been living your life the wrong way and you've had enough of it. If you come to that Damascene moment as Paul, Saul of Tarsus, who becomes Paul, who gets blinded by the Most High, manifested in the flesh, Yahusha, blinds him as he is going to persecute more followers of the way, blinds him and says, Paul, why? Why do you continue to persecute my children, my people? He blinds Paul, who is a follower, a steadfast follower of the rules, regulations, and traditions of man, of the Pharisees, of the Sadducees, of the scribes. He's a learned one. He's a taught one of the religious authorities of the time. And he persecutes the followers and the children of Yahusha. He is the most steadfast persecutor of them, until he's blinded on the road to Damascus by Yahusha himself. And then he sees, even though he's blinded, he sees for the first time. He sees the light. He's blinded by the light. And if you come to that moment, like I said, if you're fortunate, you learn it young. But I'm not sure anyone could truly appreciate it from a young age. I could be wrong. But I think you do have to go through hell and back in your life. I think you have to go through the challenges, the struggles, the striving, the fights, the mountains that you climb, the journeys that you go on, the failures, the successes. You have to have a life well lived, filled with all kinds of disappointments and frustrations, and you must wreck yourself. You must get yourself. And for everyone, that moment is different. The life they live is different. We all have our struggles. We're all going to have our struggles. We're all going to have our strivings. We're all going to have our pains and our sufferings and our problems. But you got to go through something. You got to go through something to get to a place where you realize, hey, this isn't right. I'm doing it the wrong way. This isn't what I thought. Why am I empty? Why am I bereft? Why am I feeling frustrated, anxious, hopeless? Why do I not have the answers that I've been seeking? Why am I not filled with meaning and purpose? You must get to a place where you can't take it anymore. And you come on bended knee to Yahuwah, Yahusha. And he will give you the most easy to understand values and principles and maxims to live your life such that you will finally have all that you sought for. Everlasting peace, everlasting joy, everlasting healing, everlasting love, and everlasting life. By receiving the word, you come to him, you confess that he came in the flesh. You ask him to save you, and instantly you are flooded with the Ruach HaKodesh. The breath of Yahuwah fills you up like a tidal wave, washes over you, and heals you from the inside. And the light bursts out, such that all can see you are renewed, refreshed, revised, reconstructed, and reborn, living with a new dynamism, a new robustness, a new energy, healed in all ways that you've asked for. And then you are truly grateful. As you're seeing this, as you're knowing this, as you're hearing this, as you're feeling this on your knees, you feel the gratefulness for the first time ever. The thankfulness that's expressing, that's in your genetic code. It's been given to you. It's written into your DNA, but it's finally expressing. You finally understand what it is to be truly thankful, truly grateful, truly fulfilled, truly satisfied. Because now you're living in the light of Yahuwah, Yahusha, of which the darkness cannot comprehend, the darkness cannot fathom, the darkness cannot overcome it, such that when the light of Yahuwah smashes into the darkness that surrounds your life, it dissipates, disappears, forever it is gone. You now walk in the light. And then you finally figure out, and this might not, for me, it took many years of walking with Yahuwah, Yahusha. I still held on, I still clung to this illusion and tried to bend it to my will, to control it, to control variables, to control circumstances, to control people, to control outcomes. Still frustrated, still not understanding, until I finally realized that I needed to surrender, because I didn't have the answers. Only Yahuwah, Yahusha has the answers. And in surrendering for the first time completely to him, I don't even remember when it was. Could have been a year ago, could have been a few years ago. It's all a blur now. I've been on this journey with Yahuwah, Yahusha for over 8.5 years, ever since I got cancer. Cancer twice, tumors ripped out of me, healed, stronger than ever, more robust than ever, more alive than I've ever been through Yahuwah, Yahusha. But I finally realized surrender Completely submit yourself to Yahuwah Yahusha. Surrender. Give it all up to Him and ask Him to guide you, to lead you, to show you how to live your life in a manner that pleases Him most. And in doing so, all the revelations hit. All the epiphanies hit. And it all makes sense because you receive finally, you truly receive the Word. And I mean the Word. You understand the singular commandment from which all good things spring. And that is to love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your fellow man as you love yourself. And that is the simplest value, maxim, principle that you could ever receive and that you can live your life by, and that you can have all that you've ever sought. Everlasting, as I said, everlasting healing, everlasting love, everlasting joy, everlasting peace, and everlasting life.